Hi everybody, my name is James Feeney. Welcome to or back to my channel. I wanted to hop on today and do a little review of a deck that I've been working with lately that I don't see all that much about, and I find it really awesome and moving and important in my personal practice the past few weeks. So I just wanted to come on and share my 2 cents and hopefully put some new information or life into, say, what there is to offer as far as being publicly available about this deck. So it is the Soul Invictus, the God Tarot. I came across this deck when I released my video about masculinity in spiritual spaces. I don't remember the name of who turned me on to this, so I'm sorry if you're out there. Feel free to make yourself known. I'll try to remember and put you in the comments or the description. But they mentioned this deck as being sort of a counterpart to the Dark Goddess Tarot, and of course a claim like that or some statement like that is going to get me really curious, and I will say that that was a perfect description, I think, of what this deck is or how it feels. And so I immediately went out, found it, and set about getting it. So yes, the Soul Invictus Tarot. It's by Schiffer Publishing and by Kim Huggins and Nick Phillips. Sorry for the glare, everyone. We're working with a lot of artificial light today. It's a thick book, I would say, by comparison, and I will show you. Okay. It's bigger than the Marielle book. This is the Marielle, this is the Soul Invictus. So it's considerably thicker than the Marielle, and it's also a bit longer. So to give you sort of a perspective on how much information is in here. So it's a good amount of information. Oh, my dog is barking for some reason. He was barking in the last video, now he's barking in this one. But yeah, it's a very meaty book. There's a lot in here. I mean, a lot. So we start in the beginning. There's a table of contents and stuff, and that's very helpful. So there's a really awesome table of contents. There's a lot more to this book than just definitions, a lot more. So we have the introduction, why the God Tarot, the creation process. We get something in that. We get why we need mythology. What is mythology? There's sections on those things. It being a multicultural tarot and the structure of the God Tarot, which does deviate. So we'll get into that. The name, the Soul Invictus, the unconquerable sun. So we get a little bit on that too. There's the Kabbalah, things about the Kabbalah. There's alchemy in the God Tarot. There's men, women, the masculine and the feminine, theory behind the God Tarot. So if you're looking to interact with masculinity and femininity, and you need something that's more of that masculine energy, but that is very much made to mirror or to be a counterpart to feminine energy, it goes into that. You get all that here, and I love that. So there is, then we start to get into the majors. So for each card, and the minors, majors, and courts all have the same amount of information. They all get like a few pages. So say we start with the Fool, and the Fool gets all of this, and he gets the next page of all of this, and then he gets the next page of all of this. And so you get the character that, so every card, and now I guess I'll start to show the cards. Well, here, first I'll just break down the description. So you get who is the Fool, like the character, which is on the card. You get a little bit about them, and since it's Percival, we get some on the Arthurian legend. Then we get the gods and symbols, so they break down their sort of story and how it pertains to, say, masculinity, the tarot, the expansive sort of idea of what the Fool is. And then we get So Below. So the first about the gods and symbols is called As Above, and they tell us that whole legend. Then we get So Below, which is the divinatory meaning of the Fool, as sort of told by what this card is. Finally, at the end, you get some key words. So you get like about 4 pages worth of this book for each card. Minors, majors, and courts. All of the courts are at the end of the book, And the courts are broken down into, instead of page, knight, queen, and king, we get awakening, quester, nurturer, and master. So you get 2 extra cards. Where's the other one? There. So just like a publishing card, and then you also get one that's the Tree of Life. So that's always nice to have. I'll try to show what I can. So here, what is this? 3, the creative. So instead of the Empress, we get the creative. So names that are more female or like feminine in nature, like the Empress or the High Priestess, are fully renamed. So instead of the Empress, you do get the creative, and this one's depicted by Lug Samoldenak. I don't know all of these legends, and I haven't read through every single one of them. Oops, some of them are turned around. But it is very multicultural. And of course, you'll even get sort of different aspects. So you get Dionysus, Bacchus, and Pan for the 3 of Cups. All depicted here. They're almost like seen very similarly. There are a lot of different cultures. We have Beowulf, we have Siddhartha, Gautama. I think that the world card is actually the universe, or is it's called the universe, and it's about Buddha's enlightenment is the whole theme. We have the 7 of Cups, Soma. Isn't that cool? So everyone is either a god, a myth, a historical figure, like Shakespeare's in here, for example. I believe Gandhi's in here. We have Genghis Khan. And the imagery is very much that it does kind of feel a little bit like the Dark Goddess imagery, a little bit more minimalistic, hand-drawn. I saw a lot of negative remarks about that in Amazon, and I, for one, really love this type of illustration. So I guess it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm not sure I really liked that it was marked down for that, when it's more about taste than it is something that's wrong with the deck, especially when you got to see previews of the deck. Why order it if you saw that it had that type of artwork and you decided you didn't like it? So yeah, we get, what is this? Jesus of Nazareth. I know Lucifer's in here. Osiris for the lovers. That's a really cool one. Oh my gosh, Shiva for the tower. So they're all either historical figures, gods, very notable people, myths. So just sometimes it's just the myth itself that's depicted. I'm trying to find some of the courts, especially for the queen, because the queens, or the nurturers, because I think that that's highly interesting. If I see any others I'm like really caught on, I'll show you. Nurturer of coins. And I'm not super familiar with this legend or culture where it's derived from, but the nurturer of coins, and that is Kem Min Kemnu. So like it's like, I guess kind of like where we saw like Bacchus, Pan, and Dionysus. I guess these are sort of like 3 very similar characters that are sort of combined in this one, in whatever culture this is from. So yeah, there is a lot of effort to go all the way around the world to take from and to make sure that it's inclusive and really encompassing the whole male experience, or what the masculine side of experience of the world. Oh, here's the Shakespeare card. He's the nurturer. Wait, the other one was not the nurturer of cups. He's the nurturer of cups. And I think that's so cool. At first I was like annoyed, and I was like, this is kind of cheesy. These aren't gods. They're just people, like not just people, but I was almost like just wanting it to be gods and myths. But then it grew on me, and I thought that it was really cool. Who else do we see? Yeah, here's the universe card. Buddha's enlightenment. We have Eros for the awakening of wands, or the page. Yes, some of these images are just so moving. 7 of coins, John Barleycorn. I don't really know much about this one. So you're going to learn a lot about mythology. The book takes you through the entirety of the myth. You get pages and pages on just the myth itself and the character. They really try to frame it in through the lens of tarot and the lesson and the idea of the archetype of the card. The Quester of Wands. So beautiful. So yeah, I love this one, guys. Oh, and these are the backs. They're just normal backs. I'm not moved by them either way. Here, I'll pull a card so that I can take you a little bit through. I won't read the whole thing because I won't sit and make you guys listen to 4 pages of reading. That'd be boring. But to give you guys a taste of an entry. So card for us all will be, let's see, Monkey. Monkey is the quester of swords, so the knight of swords. So let me find him in the book and read you a little bit about him. So, like I said, the way it's broken up is the courts are all in the back. And as you get to the courts, you get a whole few pages just as like a prelude to the courts about the system and how they are used. You get something on the elemental aspect of how it's all broken down, why the names are changed, and for all these sections you get sort of spreads to work with. So spreads in understanding the court and like the whole structure of the court as told through a spread that you can do for yourself. I know that the same is said. There are other spreads in here for the minors. There's one for the majors. Where is it? Well, there are a few spreads in here, and they're pretty unique, is all I'm saying. Let's see. The Awakening of the Swords, the Quester, Awakening, Quester. There's a lot of pages for each, so it does take a minute. Quester, wait, did we already? There, okay, Quester of Swords, traditionally the Knight of Swords, and the actual title of the character in the myth and who's being depicted is the Monkey King. So it's a Chinese myth. It says, courageous but flawed, quick-witted but arrogant, brave monkey throws himself into battle without hesitation and with great joy. He lives for the quest, always striving for the highest of goals, Buddhahood. Fierce protector of the monk, Tripitaka monkey thinks nothing of fighting monsters, demons, and deities, all in a day's work. His determination to gain enlightenment and freedom is sky high, and his belief in himself is unshakable. However, he has an urge to rebel and kill, and he recklessly throws himself into combat without consideration and consequences. His audaciousness angers heaven, and the monkey soon finds himself in trouble. Then we go into that sort of as above, where we get into the myth and the whole god aspect of the character broken down for us, and their myth of their life story as it pertains. So there's his journey to the West, and him coming to an understanding essentially that he becomes depressed in realizing that he will just be reincarnated if he doesn't reach enlightenment and continue to suffer each lifetime, and that his efforts in fighting are not amounting to much. And so he does start to go about attaining enlightenment and peace, and working on how he can sort of stop reincarnating and suffering through existence of being alive and being reincarnated and having to struggle through another lifetime. And he ends up in heaven, and there's his jobs there. So yeah, there's just so much. You get about 3 pages of his myth in the as above God category, and then there's so below the divinatory meaning of the monkey, and it just talks about essentially in terms of this character, the definition of the page of, the Knight of Swords, which does adhere to more so RWS, but it breaks it down a lot in a unique way. So I do think that there's something new to be gained there. Yeah, and it gives you sort of like an advising type perspective at the end of that, and then there's some keywords. I would say the most novel and best part is just the myths, like going through and finding almost like a myth from some random place in the world that pertains to a card, and then understanding or gaining a new understanding of the card through that myth. I think that it's so cool. It almost feels like they all hold their own like personality or energy, all of the cards here. Let me pick some up so I can continue to show you more. Did I already show him? Wait, these guys I already showed. We'll start here. But yeah, and it does sort of break down like the unhealthy masculine, like how the monkey and his fighting and desire to kill and conquer and best and all of that was not healthy or good. It wasn't going to get him to the enlightenment and place that he wanted to eventually end up. And so he had to go about almost like the healing that unhealthy masculine within himself to reach this place. So I would say that it is a deck that works with masculine energy, but more so like the balancing of it and the health of it and the understanding of it, and getting it to such like a great place that is more in balance with the feminine. I would say that a lot of these characters, like the monkey, it almost seems like he is trying to balance his masculine and feminine energies or aspects of self in order to get to that enlightenment. It seems as though his masculine energy is, one, unhealthy, but two, out of balance, and that it's more highly dominant over any sort of potential feminine energy within himself, and that is part of the problem. Oh, I love this one. Lucifer for the 5 of coins. And that one actually is very RWS with like the church window and stuff, but a lot of them are not super Rider-Waite-Smith. Prometheus for the 7 of Swords. I love that. Because I like to see the 7 of Swords as I generally read it not as an innately like underhanded card, but more so I also a lot of times see it as reclaiming our personal power or agency, and I love the myth of Prometheus, and I think that that's just so fitting. So that's like one of my favorite cards. But yeah, and I know that this deck, I'm not sure, it was hard for me to sort of ascertain if it was more like out of print or just not very popular, because on Amazon I could only get it through third-party sellers. There was no Prime option or just like through a publisher that I saw. I don't think I went to the Schiffer website, so I didn't. But it was published originally in 2007, and I got it for less than what it says. The book here, and there's a hard box that it comes in, that the book and the deck come in. It says it was originally $59.95 US dollars, so $60. And I got mine for like maybe, I want to say I got it for like $50 or $55, so I got it for less. So the price didn't really reflect like an out-of-print deck, especially not a desirable out-of-print deck. If anything, it was cheaper than what it started out as, and there was a lot of options, a lot of retailers selling it, but it did just seem odd that it was only through these smaller third-party vendors. But I mean, Book Depository actually was selling it too, so that's not super small. But yeah, so as far as I can tell, it's not out of print. It's just one that's like not very popular, and so it's not being printed heavily, but it is still very readily accessible. I would say it's a little bit on the pricey side for a mass market deck. I guess apparently it was originally published for about $60, which is a lot, but yeah, you get this massive book, you get a nice hard box that it comes in, which I don't have with me, I forget where I put it, and the cardstock is actually really great. It's not that Schiffer glossy, I would say it's mostly matte. This lighting is horrible, but it's mostly matte. It's very thick. I would say it's anywhere between like 350 and 400 GSM, and it's very, very sturdy. It doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel cardboardy. It just feels like thick, durable cardstock. It riffle shuffles nicely. It overhand shuffles nicely, and they don't stick together. So as far as the technical aspects of the cards go, there you guys go. Mine were cut like a little bit funny, but it doesn't, that's just something that happens with the machine. Like some of the corners got like weirdly, not shredded, but sorry, it's not showing up. It doesn't really bother me though. It didn't really impact anything. And then it came with like one of those wraparound plastic things, but it wasn't one of those tight ones that squeezes and constricts the cards, which I was thankful for. But yeah, so good card stock. So I guess, I mean, I'm sure that part of the cost went into, say, that big hard box and all of that, but the card stock and the production aspect to it, along with the book, do reflect the costs. So there's that. So if this is one that you're looking to get, to interact with any of that, I would be curious. So I hope this was informative and helpful. I hope it benefited you guys in some way if this is something that you might be interested in, or it kind of like turned you on to its existence. If you have this and work with it, let me know what you think of it. And if you are going to get it or do get it and you have your own thoughts, I would also be really curious because I'm really loving this one and I would love to know others' experiences with it. So yeah, that's all. Until next time, guys, bye.